All right, let's start. We are joined today by Ismail Hakkı Polat Hoca, who's a lecturer at New Media Department at Kadir Has University. He has been with us for a long time, I think. Previously, we taught computational thinking course together. I think we have been kind of the founding fathers of that course. And during the preparation, I learned that he was also interested in blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, and I think he has been developing his expertise at the intersection of technology and media. So he has also been giving a course on blockchain technology, and I'm delighted to have him as a guest lecturer for our course because I think his expertise spans a lot to this domain, so he will be able to answer a lot of technical questions as well as kind of how this technology was born and why it's valid and kind of probably what the importance it has for the future of currencies and money transfers and all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to leave the floor to Ismail Hoca. So he's going to be giving a presentation on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So I think he'll be with us for an hour. So after his presentation, we will have a chance to ask him questions. So stick around. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sabri Hocam. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for those who has been here despite defeating the sleepy and a bit the transition of the seasons, so that and despite the heavily devastating earthquake, and I send my deepest condolences and sympathy to those who lost their lives, and wish patience to their families and friends. So coming back to our lecture, I don't know whether you can see it or not, the presentation. Is it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
we can see it.
Great. So in the context of this parametric design, metaverse, NFTs, and crypto assets course, this is going to be the introduction for blockchains and cryptocurrencies. But I mean, as you know, this is not a story totally focused on the blockchains and cryptocurrencies, but also a bit step back and see the whole picture and where blockchains and cryptocurrencies locates. And I'm sure Sabri Hoca and the other guest lecturers will show you the ways also where metaverse, NFT, crypto assets, and the other kind of stuff will locate, and that's how you will get your vision, perspective, and proceed in this way, hopefully. So in that sense, while starting, I would like to share you a timeline regarding where we come, where we go, and why we try to stick on blockchain and cryptocurrencies types of the new technology concepts. So it all started in 80s with the technology. I mean, all the concept was named as technology, but the technology mainly lies on the information, the transformation of the problems and a bit storage problems into ones and zeros, thanks to the machines called as computers. And this technology, when combining with telecommunications, thanks to the winds of change in the 90s, starting with the collapse of the Berlin Wall, there started the globalization, and it enabled the way, and it paved the way for a new kind of communication interaction over the technology, and IT synergized with telecommunications, and technology started to become a network where the machine starts to interact with each other, not only the fixed ones with the cables, but also the network, the mobile devices, which are networks. There, after the small problem solving, time saving, and storage on these machines, which enabled digitalization, then there arrived a networking concept which connects and enables communications and messaging all around the world. With the involvement of media technologies and media industry, together with IT and telco industries, there shaped the triple synergy and convergence, a new concept called as media. And the internet became a medium which is called as new media, and it changed the way we regard the media, and it also changed the definition of the media in both in an academical way and in a practical way. And it's not only a public communication and the news thing or an entertainment thing, but also the communication between devices. For example, when I'm in a supermarket and decide to buy a biscuit on a shelf, thanks to its QR code and else, when I terminate my purchase decision, then it immediately signals the robot in the dark factory set up by Industry 4.0, and all the biscuit sales signals even shapes up the speed of the production thanks to the AI-based robots working on this factory. Then the biscuit package starts to communicate with the robot in the factory, which means a new media communication which is out of human control, or which is a humanless communication. So in that sense, there starts and there enabled and there boomed digital production, delivery, and consumption. And together with social interactions, we arrived to pandemic era. Before the pandemic, everything is, like digital production, delivery, and consumption, and it's a bit apart from let's say the physical identicals, the physical identical processes. But when the pandemic era arrived, there started a merge between our daily life routines, not only limited with the secondary ones, also primary ones. In times when I couldn't go to the grocery shop at the corner of my street, I succeed to buy it from getir.net or an e-commerce website. Then it paved a new era called as this thing becoming a living space than a medium. Okay, there arrived the cyberspace, robots and AI, virtual devices and spaces, and our daily life routines merges and meets with the cyber twins, cyber identical processes. And for example, in the pandemic, it's decided to make the school things and the office things via these kind of teleconferencing tools. After the pandemic ends, we couldn't give it up. We couldn't give them all up. Okay. Now there occurred an earthquake, and the university administration easily decided to do it in an online form because the infrastructure is ready. We have somehow some familiarity and some experience on that. And even the earthquake didn't happen, even a snow blizzard and such kind of thing. Or maybe I'm ill, okay? We can decide to come together in an online way by complementing our, learning process both in a digital way and in a physical way. Okay, they complement each other. So, I mean, it will spread all our living space, all our physical daily routines, and this living space, you can call it cyberspace, digital space, or let's say somehow metaverse or that kind of thing, increases the cyberization, and the human beings are discussed the interaction between robots and AIs, thanks to wearables and the virtual spaces, and there arrived the singularity transhumanism kind of concepts to be discussed. So from technology to a living space, actually it's a bit luring, or let's say elusive picture that may be a bit, promising, but we have to think on such kind of major concepts in our daily routines, okay, when we decide to, or when it is decided to merge, the new living space becomes our complementary living space together with the physical ones. What will happen to ourselves? What will be the experiences, as we have spoken, as we have just spoken? What are our emotions, behaviors in this world? Okay, we have anonym profiles that feel ourselves a bit, liberated or free, and then, I mean, become a troll stalker or any other kinds of behaviors that we never know before this digital era. And what will be our culture, traditions, societies? What about the borders, rules, governance, public and private realms, the ethics, our literacy? The literacy, for example, is not the, it's not a read-write thing, as Alvin Toffler stated, but it's a thing that reads, writes on the digital skills and so forth. So the coding will soon become the basic aspect in the context of primary literacy. Then, I mean, more or less, identical with reading and writing thing. So in that sense, the way we shape this new living space will determine our fate as human beings or as humanity. So there are a lot of discussions, but one major discussion is this kind of living space, how it will be governed. Okay, so the governance of this thing or living space can be developed in two ways. One is, stated or announced by the Mark Zuckerberg and his friends, and they decided to migrate Facebook and the other stuff, WhatsApp, Instagram, or that kind of social media stuff, into a metaverse. But the governance and the rules are protocolized by Mark Zuckerberg and his close friends. So in this case, what will happen to our rules, our national rules, our community rules, our digital community rules, and else? So there will bring discussions regarding those. And on the other hand, the other metaverse concepts, like decentralized, Decentraland, are fully decentralized and fully liberated. The Decentraland, maybe some of you have already heard this, has their token. It's not only sold for purchasing a land, but also to become a voter of the land, in the ratio, or depending on how much you purchased as a land. Also, it's not a financial token, but it's also a governance token and a right to vote. So in that sense, Decentraland looks like a bit opposite or the other extreme of the metaverse. So also we have some other verses like Gameverse, Blocktopia, Fashionverse, Leaderverse, and Sportsverse, like Manchester United and Sony has been trying to build. So in that sense, I mean, there are thematic and the other stuff, but the main thing is how we, govern this, whether in a monopolistic or in a monarchic way, or in a fully liberated, fully meritocratic, and the other stuff. So in that sense, the way of web will show us the way we proceed. And here, the term decentralization will also determine the way we govern, not only in this living space, but also its heavily reflections to the physical space. So anyway, the fate of the humanity somehow is related with these. So the metaverse, there are many things. By the way, you can ask the questions either via chat or by maybe stopping me and asking the questions popped on your minds. So in that sense, there are many metaverse concepts, but the main discussion is whether it will be, or how much it will be, decentralized or centralized. So decentralization is an issue of not only that kind of questions, but also it's a nature of the network, the internet network. Thanks to the Tim Berners-Lee, the founder of Web Protocol, thanks to his net neutrality, everything, every concept, every daily routine put on the internet starts first with one single thing, one single node. It's the governing and it's the productive and it's the, let's say, administrative node, and it's the active node, and the others who interested with this node, what it does. For example, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and the other stuff will gather passive nodes called as, the users, the consumers, and else. But thanks to the net neutrality, these, violet nodes, comparing with this turquoise nodes, are somehow, as time goes by, somehow balanced. Okay, for example, in social media, user generators contributed the way, and then these turquoise nodes somehow become violet nodes, but contribute, but not contribute to the governance. So in that sense, it's somehow decentralized and liberated thanks to the contribution and activity of the passive users. In the ideal case, it's the meritocratic part. You have not only consume, but also produce, and it's a, let's say, combined word, prosume. Both produce and consume. So in a meritocratic way, everyone deserves the purple node right regarding its consumption and prosumption, its consumption and production. In that sense, the network looks like the ideal form, shapes in the ideal form, which brings us the ideal meritocracy. But in the sociologic way, it's a bit somewhere in between. Not here, but somewhere in between. So in that sense, these are called, in the network way, centralized, super centralized, decentralized, and distributed. And the rule is anything digitalized will eventually decentralize. It starts here, but it comes there and somehow swings around here. So in that sense, decentralization is the transfer of control of an activity or organization to several offices and authorities rather than one single one, in a dictionary way, but in a network way. It's the way we collectively govern, or let's say the governance is shared. So governance is not only a need or a natural characteristics of the network, but also the way the physical world demands. For the sake of fairness and justice, for the sake of transparency, auditability, diversity, and sustainability, our world needs it. The earth, the mother earth needs it. Okay, so in that sense, the nature of network, the decentralized or decentralizing nature of network also helps us to solve our physical decentralization needs. But all is done for the sake of trusting each other. Not only the trust of the persons and societies, but also trust of the machines and the AIs and robots and else. So it's a very huge concept, but trust is the keyword for our today's lecture. And blockchain, or the way we decentralize, is started in the network with the communication, thanks to the centralization of the mail. Digitalization of the mail will become decentralization of the mail, so that our messaging and our communication is somehow, or in a in a heavily way, it's decentralized. So did the media. It started with the monopolistic governmental media in the, let's say, in the industrial age, but then in the post-industrial era, thanks to the internet, it's decentralized thanks to social media, new media, and the other stuff. And also everyone becomes a media user generator, or the news generator, or content generator. So will the money, and it started to decentralize the monopolistic governmental money things. And the Bitcoin is one of the good examples of that. And the way Bitcoin showed up himself or herself is mainly light on the need for the decentralization in the governance of the money. So in that sense, when we compare the digital money with Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies, then it means that it started 40 years ago in the same way with the e-money. Okay, in the same ways, the cryptologists and the cryptocurrencies, cyberpunk, and the banking and finance industry are both digitalized the money. But between digital money that the governments would like to develop, like in the form of central bank digital currencies, and the cryptocurrencies are different from each other. In which ways? The way they use the network. Okay, the digital money in the control of the financial institutions and mainly the central banks will be fully decentralized and fully government under the governmental control. But in Bitcoin, it's open source code, and I mean, once it's protocolized and it's uninterrupted and unchanged code, with the unchanged code, or in a consensus-based changeable codes, let's say. So in that sense, the nature of the the working mechanism is totally different and extreme. And transactions in that sense are one is fully controlled by the institution itself, and it's private and not publicized to the public auditability. For example, you can only see quarterly the central bank's sheets, financial sheets, or the financial institutions sheets, based on some numbers that you can never, understand, and also you cannot, control your transaction in a public way, but in a private way, and you object it, and it depends the decision of the institution based on your agreement, which you signed without reading it, with the long paragraphs text. So in that sense, Bitcoin's protocol and the cryptocurrencies blockchain's protocol are public, auditable, and unchangeable. The privacy initiative is in digital institutions concepts, is the privacies are under the hands of, under the initiatives of the institutions, even your privacy, and it can be publicized maybe without your control. But in Bitcoin, it's your initiative to publicize yourself or not. So in that sense, your wallet's transactions can be publicly observed and audited and monitored, but they never know that it's you. It's only your decision to publicize yourself that this wallet belongs to me. So in that sense, you somehow keep your privacy depending on your privacy needs. And also, in terms of security, it's the proprietary digital technologies, depending on the quality of or the regard of the institution and prioritization of the institution to the security, and it differs from institution to institution. But here, it's the crypto standard, which based on the open source code. So in that sense, the way they encrypted Bitcoin successfully works and never hacked, except the early beta trials days in more than 10 years time. The Bitcoin is secure and a standalone and user initiated privacy and public transaction, the publicly audited transaction, and decentralized and eliminating the trusted parties such as banks, notaries, and else. So in that sense, when we looked over the basics of Bitcoin with the decentralized peer-to-peer network architecture, with the public ledger based on transparent transactions, user-initiated privacy, and crypto security, these four pillars bring us to a new concept called as blockchain. Okay, so in that sense, the cryptocurrencies are blockchain-based digital currencies derived from Bitcoin, and they are also digital currencies. They can be considered under the term, under the umbrella digital currencies, like the ones in central banks will develop. But the way they differ is the way you use the blockchain based on these four pillars. So in that sense, for example, when it comes to decentralization and elimination of the trusted parties, the Bitcoin's code and the contribution of the Bitcoin community and the arbitrary selection for the auditing and the approval of transactions, the way they use the network differs radically from each other. In a clearinghouse of the SWIFT network or EFT network, for example, for the banking transactions, it mainly lies on a clearinghouse backed by 4 or 5 servers as the hot standby or a backup. But in Bitcoin, there are more than 15,000 people spread over more than 100 countries. And the way you join this, the governors or the miners or the node validators, transaction validators, are equal. For example, me and Sabri Hoca, if we would like to, join this, gatekeeper or node validator community, then what we need is not a license as the banks, not a financial license, but a software and hardware. That's it. And we can increase the number to up to, let's say, more than 100,000, which is limitless. So in case a government attempt to hack it, then the number with the involvement of the volunteering, serving server or node validator involvement can increase up to hundreds of thousands, which makes Bitcoin blockchains or the way the Bitcoin-like blockchains immutable and resistant to hacking and resistant to that kind of governance revoke attempts. So in that sense, also the way they give you your public key and private key, which corresponds to a account name and a password with the 34 consisting of 34 characters alphanumeric, which sums up to trillions, quadrillions of combinations, cannot be easily hacked by even the state-of-the-art power computers and hash power. So in that sense, the security and your privacy cannot be hacked easily. So in that sense, maybe I can show you the way how Bitcoin works. For example, me and Tansel Hoca, which will be your guest lecturer in the coming weeks, would like to make a transaction. First of all, I would like to send 2 Bitcoin to Tansel Hoca. Okay. First of all, I would like to create a wallet and then add Bitcoin to my wallet. So I can buy it from an exchange or maybe from Sabri Hoca. And my wallet, and Tansel Hoca is in United States right now. So I would like to send this over the Bitcoin's blockchain, apart from the banking networks and the other stuff. Only Tansel Hoca and me are there. So I would like to scream the Bitcoin blockchain and the community that I would like to send Tansel Hoca 2 Bitcoins. But the network never knows us. What they only knew is these wallet addresses. It's 1K SN for me and 1 AD blah 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 for Tansel Hoca. So they never know our name, but sorry about that. They put a transaction hash. They create a transaction hash and announce the request to all ledger keepers, so-called miners. Okay, then a competition started there, and thanks to the programs and the processors, around, let's say, 15,000 among 15,000 ledger keepers and miners, some of them volunteered to approve our transaction in return to a reward, which Bitcoin generates from its code in each 10 minutes. Okay, so when the competition starts, let's say tens or hundreds of the volunteers attacks here to get the reward and to approve our transaction. They first check whether the address of receiver and sender, and after 3 referees approved, then it's approves the system. But it accumulates it in a let's say queue, and when 10 minutes or 20 minutes or somehow a bit longer duration ends, all transactions there are packed as a block and added or chained to the block 10 minutes ago, and then it goes. Okay, when all transactions packed in a way, it's immediately distributed all ledgers, all servers around the world, all volunteer servers around the world, to update their ledger. Okay, in each 10 or 20 minutes, all these 15,000 ledgers are updated. Okay, and then in all these databases, my two Bitcoin are transferred or are transferring to Tansel Hoca, and if Tansel Hoca objects that, oh, Ismail Hoca, you didn't send me 2 Bitcoins but 1 Bitcoin, give me 1 more Bitcoin, it never works, because it is registered to all 15,000 ledgers. I cannot hack the bank system single point of attack, or maybe I can bribe the IT guy in the bank and change the records, or maybe I can hack it by myself. So in that sense, the way they keep the ledger is the state-of-the-art way to keep financial records. So in that sense, starting from the first day till now, till the transaction between me and Tansel Hoca, it properly works. It standalone works thanks to contribution of the miners and the ledger keepers, somehow called node validators, the transaction validators and else. But the ledger keeps on and goes on. So here it's the first records from Satoshi Nakamoto. It's the the address of Satoshi Nakamoto's and the Halfines cypherpunk, his friends, and the first Bitcoin transaction. And the number here looks like the transaction number in the that you refer for the banking transactions, but in our language, in blockchain language, it's called as hash, the hash number. Okay, you can follow your what happened to your transaction from your hash record. So let's skip on that because in the first transaction, Satoshi Nakamoto also embedded the daily headline of the Times magazine at this time, which corresponds to a rhetoric message. I mean, that is the 2008 crisis in the world, financial crisis, is governed in a in a central way, which is antagonized by the Bitcoin's first transaction. So it's Tansel Hoca and me example. So it's the ledger record keeping. So we can say that if you ask me what is Bitcoin, then I can say you that Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, works on peer-to-peer internet network, eliminates the middleman, but with transparency all transactions as well as protecting your privacies by cryptography, and provide us faster, cheaper, and trust-free money transfer for all. So in that sense, we can regard cryptocurrencies are the digital and decentralized monetary protocols on the internet. But if we would like to do it apart from finance, then it's not only used on the finance, but also to to exchange the information in a trusty way, which Bitcoins are representing the decentralized and digital trust protocols on the internet. So this is the way we used for digital and decentralized trust, and where we need them. For example, we are digitalizing our governments or our companies, corporate institutions, universities, document and archive management. Okay, so the way we keep our documents and archives needs such kind of a digital and decentralized trust. The supply chains will transform into supply blockchains. I will show their examples. Elections and votings. Okay, not the general elections, but the corporate board of trustees or the, you know, the their boards, somehow their electoral boards or NLs, even the, you know, apartments or residence, boards can be governed by such kind of elections and voting mechanisms. Network monitoring, okay, to transparentize the bills we paid, because they need to transparentize by the in the case of objections of the consumers, because I object my telecom bill or electricity bill, they look their they turn back and they check their network by themselves and declare the or impose this the information to me. I don't check whether it's true or not. So it needs such a transparentization, like in the elections and voting supply chain, to trust the all the elements of the supply chain, not only the super hyper malls companies, but also the logistics, the raw materials owners or producers, manufacturers, and else. So in that sense, for payment, of course, and also for the corporate governance. Okay, in the corporate or in the governance, in the governments of the nations, in order to provide a transparent and auditable, publicly auditable governance, you need blockchains, public blockchains, governed by the not only by the government itself, but also NGOs and the volunteers. Okay. So in that sense, let's a bit talk about how the decentralization goes in the financial system, and finally I give some blockchain examples. So blockchain first started with Bitcoin and solves the account opening and financial transaction issues or the features in a decentralized and in a decentralized and transparent and privacy initiated way, comparing with the centralized solutions of the banks. But in that sense, the cryptocurrencies have their original and dedicated blockchains called as coins. Okay, they function as money. Bitcoin, Ripple, Monero can be the good examples. I will skip those because we don't have time to discuss the Bitcoin thing, but you can also check it from your slide notes that I will forward just after the work to Sabri Hoca. But after Bitcoin, there appeared another innovation or disruption by Ethereum called as smart contracts. Okay, this is a disruption of the custodian services of the commercial banking. What are the smart contracts? Smart contracts are the paper contracts, are the digital and decentralized version of the paper contracts we use in our daily lives, between social contracts, commercial contracts signed on the paper with the wet signs of the parties. But in this thing, you instead of putting the conditions and protocolizing them on a paper and signing it physically, you protocolize the conditions on a code and digitally sign it and put it on a blockchain. You know, for the sake of eliminating the third party, like the notaries, like the you know, the deed registry institutions, banks, and the other stuff, the school administrations, the government you know, institutions and else. So all promises and conditions are run by a blockchain-based algorithmic protocol turned into a smart code. So in that sense, smart contracts decreases the way as the templates to contracting issues into minutes duration with the automatic remittance, and the escrow is not necessary, or I mean not heavily necessary, let's say. I mean, from regulatory point of view, there is somehow a necessity, but technologically it's not. And also it's more cheaper, and it doesn't need a physical presence, and it changed the way we look to the lawyer profession. The lawyers for the moment are the ones who defend people or the companies in front of the courts. I mean, but in that sense, the law changes, that it's a preventive law. First, you put the conditions in a proper way and leave it to the codes themselves, leave it to the objective codes themselves, because all the governance are delegated by the signed parties to the you know, to the code itself. That's why it's called a smart contract, and it eliminates the paper and the building, the court buildings, and turns it into a blockchain and the smart contract on top of it. So, for example, it's nothing but a if, else, and then condition, like in the code, like in the protocols, in the signed protocols of the contracts. So in that sense, for example, if I would like to buy a deed or a house, the deed can be written on a code in a deed registry blockchain ledger with a separate, you know, the financial transaction ledger connected each ledger to each other. We can immediately transact or exchange the deed with in return to the money. Okay, so the depending on the condition, for example, Ethereum can handle both the deed exchange as well as the money exchange. So here is the small escrow contract. Here is a, for example, auto land contract code, and here are the variables and else. So in that sense, you just run the code in a very simplistic way by just entering the, you know, the plate number, the name number, the ID, photo, and else. So, I mean, in a way, it's a code is low thing. So in that sense, the smart contracts lie on a blockchain. Apart from coins, are called as tokens. So the tokens don't have their blockchain, but instead they have a smart contract. Okay, so they can be either in security or utility, like the bill use case I told you. So maybe they can act as a financial thing or also a functional thing, called as decentralized app. In Ethereum, their standard smart contract development standard is ERC20, which defines the token standard. So in that sense, you can see many names. And also, it's not a money thing, a token thing. Token is not a financial thing, thanks to the smart contract issues, but also a decentralized autonomous organization thing for the governance of not only commercial but also social organizations. I can skip this because Tansel Hoca will touch heavily on that since we have limited time. So blockchains, in a way, can be regarded as the social contract models for the 21st century. But after that, the innovation never stops. The Ethereum ecosystem, the developer ecosystem, and also the Ethereum rivals like AVAX, Solana, Polkadot, and the other stuff, blockchains, the other rival blockchains, smart contracts, create a financial ecosystem called as DeFi, decentralized finance, that is a threat for the centralized credit banking system to meet the credit lenders and borrowers in a way. Just you use an application on your mobile phone, and if you want to lend or borrow, they meet you regardless from a border nation or some physical things. They meet you on the internet, and they provide, they declare a fair interest rate, and the lender gets its yield, whereas borrower gets its credit, and then it works. So it's a global and decentralized financial thing that eliminates the middleman. So in that sense, the financial system, thanks to blockchains, will fully decentralize apart from or eliminating even the physical borders. So it's not only a single credit thing, but also for the public finance, some concepts like Ampliford and Your Finance are trying to imitate the treasury and public, the balance sheet of the nation, the budget, the national budget of the nation, by putting a code, a smart contract code, trying to replace the Ministry of Finance and central banks. So in that sense, I mean, it's the financial thing, but this financial innovation has reflections as the vector of disrupting the financial system, which are the fund tokens and the NFTs, which will be also presented to you by Sabri Hoca, Esra Hoca, and the other stuff. So in that sense, I mean, these are the concepts that we come up within 13 years' time. So, I mean, not only the finance, but also thanks to NFTs and the fund tokens, sports industry, culture and art industry, the collector and the hobbyists kind of industries, the entertainment industry and the other industries are all involved in this innovation and disruption. So in the Web 3.0 era, it mainly lies on the decentralization, but decentralization infrastructure is blockchain, where it brings the smart contracts, the non-fungible tokens, the decentralized finance, fund tokens, and the other kind of applications, which spreads all over the world, thanks to youngsters and I mean the interested people like you. It grows enormously, and it spreads like a virus in the pandemic. So finally, I'll show you in a few minutes the use cases for blockchain. But before that, let me honestly tell you that you cannot apply to blockchain to everywhere. You need to determine where you use, a super centralized network, or where you use blockchain, or where you use a centralized workflow, where you use decentralized workflow. So in order to determine whether you need blockchain or not, you mainly follow this path, but mainly lies on the multi-parties involvement on a common database, and should need a conflict, lack of trust between them. And that goes in this way. So if your rules are not changing rapidly, then you need blockchain. If you need to if you need a independent and objective governance of your contracts and your workflow, you definitely need blockchain. But if you ask questions whether your transactions are public or not, then there appears an other concept. If you close or if you put your blockchain permissions or limited to some community, then it's called as permissioned blockchain. But if you publicize it, then it's a fully public blockchain like Bitcoin. So in that sense, maybe I can end up with a diploma example. For example, I mean, before the internet or digital, your university diplomas are the paper versions, okay? But any employer cannot check it. I mean, or in case they would like to check it deeply, they would like to go, they had to go to university and else. So now it's the, trust issue of digital, that you put a barcode here and your employer can go to a database and can verify or refute this diploma. But what if, as a student, you put another people's, let's say, barcode, you steal it, or you hack or you bribe the single server here of Kadir Has University, okay? So it's still not that trusty. But if all universities around the world and all, the education administrations in the nations gather on a blockchain network and form a common database, only checks whether your digital blockchain certificate is valid or not, okay? Then there are, let's say, more than thousands or 10,000s of nodes here that validates the transactions and the checks whether the originality of the of your diplomas or not. Then within this way, LinkedIn even provides a blue ticker for you whether you are graduated from this university or not. So it's a very simple way. Imagine that you can apply it to the deeds, to the governmental archives, to the network bills, to other stuff. So it's a, it's the way the society relies to its government, and the vice versa, and also the governments trust each other, nations and societies trust each other, and the individuals regards each other independent from the governments or the other stuff. So in that sense, this is how you govern the things. Also, you can apply it to the copyright issues. You provide a global copyright blockchain and you demand everything. As a musician or as an artist, you can collect your money over a fair and publicly auditable and transparent blockchain. Also, you can form a supply blockchain and flow it in a fair way to exchange the money in case of in return to the delivery of the product or the service. And also even you can trace the healthiness of the food. So in that sense, there are many examples, and you can also find some other examples that you can benefit. So this concludes my presentation, and I don't know whether you have questions or not, but if you have, please.
That was great. Thank you, Ismail Hocam. Maybe I can jump in. I had a question.
Please.
You were talking about centralized and decentralized. Like a few examples came to my mind immediately. Of course, it's kind of relevant and current, but for instance, Twitter, right? The way it's regulated, it seems like whoever controls the server controls the system, and
Exactly.
there's also some sort of maybe anthropological, sociological, or philosophical implication of it too, because how much of the human thought or human interaction needs to be filtered is a deeper question probably. And I think Elon Musk talks about this too, like whether 5% of Twitter users might be spreading kind of fake news or contaminating the social media platform, let's say. Then who gets to regulate this? That's probably somehow relevant to the idea of blockchain too, because somehow, although these systems are efficient, they could also be manipulated, or they could also be controlled from outsiders, right? So there's kind of a danger of security breach and other types of things too. So I was wondering if there's an example where something like this happened in the history of mankind, where a centralized system became decentralized by incentive, right? Because in a way, like the American central banking system needs to agree to this, but then how are they going to give up control? Because a large part of this is about control, right? So I was wondering if you can elaborate on that a bit.
Well, yes, because I mean, for example, for the Twitter issue, the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, is in the preparation of forming a decentralized social media called as Blue Sky Social, I think. And the rules there are formed by the contribution coming from the volunteer users, or let's say pioneers. And then once it's protocolized, then even Jack Dorsey himself cannot manipulate it. Okay, it's open source code and it's not allowed. It's guaranteed thanks to blockchain and records. But the way, as you said, especially the financial institutions and central banks cannot want to delegate their own power to the nation or to the society. So in that sense, the way they drag the humanity should be in a positive way, in any kind of crisis, or else will tease will bring up the necessity to the blockchains and else, because they are here for more than 13 years. And it's not a top to down thing, but it's a horizontal thing that is organized in the in the bottom of the in the bottom of the, or the in the roots of the society. Especially youngsters are developing many blockchains, many concepts, so that somehow they come to a threshold and they start to push the top ways. For example, once we learned that our apartment, our residence can be governed in a auditable way, in a public way, okay, then we first revolutionize our apartment. Okay, we got the spirit. Then comes the community. Then comes the local. So it's like a spreading thing. So in that sense, the most important thing is literacy. Okay, the conscience of people that drag or push the nations, the institutions to become and in a transparent way, to behave in a transparent way that brings us the trust. Okay, and the keyword is trust, actually. If they want me to trust them, then they have to prove me, and the technology proof or technology stamp of that, technology seal of that, is blockchain.
It seems to me like a community building project too, because
exactly.
I'm imagining a company maybe gaining trustees or partners via this technology, because I'm imagining if there are two parties that agree to transfer on the blockchain, then this could be kind of a start of a new smart contract, or maybe exchange of goods, or whatnot, right? So that's why I think the NFT platform is that's how the NFT platform is built as well. Like all these trustees join in and develop projects, and people exchange and buy products as well.
Exactly. So actually, these are the roots or the primary needs for blockchain, which also represents us the way we need trust. Especially the trust is much more necessary on the internet than the physical world, because physical world has more proofs than the virtual worlds.
Thank you. Let me ask if any of our students have any questions. Maybe they have something that they would like to ask to you directly. We can probably have a few minutes for that too, I hope.
Sure.
Does anybody have any question?
Thank you, Melissa.
Melissa Duman says thank you. So I guess this is it. I mean, I think this was great. It's also I'm really excited to teach this class, because I think it's a great way of thinking about art, thinking about technology, thinking about coding as well, like you said, because I mean, we are living in 21st century, so most of us have to become coders in order to think or create, probably. So that's why I think all these students are in the right place to learn about this technology. And thank you for the lecture. I think it was really illuminating. And I'm sure if they have any other questions, maybe they can reach out to you.
Sure.
I can also share your email with them. All right. So thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, and I will forward the slide notes to you immediately. Then you can also distribute them to the students.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice and healthy days, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.